Hello, everyone. Both the viewers that I already have, as well as the viewers that haven't even seen this yet, or technically, if you're watching it right now, then you would be technically a viewer. But both the regular subscribers that I have now and the subscribers that I will inevitably have in the future. This is Björn, my dear friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. He is the CEO of Dark Loch Studios. And Dark Loch Studios is a rising tabletop gaming platform. And today we're here to speak about what drove us, what guided us to, should I say, reignite the fire of our ancient ancestral beliefs. And it's good to note that Björn is a native Swede, and I am American, though I descend directly from Danelaw, England, which means Norway. And that I have tons of videos on that, even though I may not look it. We are both of Norse descent. So, but today, the first question that we're going to start off with. This is really cool because none of this is scripted. Even if I seem scripted, it's not. The first question we're going to start off with, and it was probably going to be the guiding theme throughout the entire conversation, is what actually brought us from. And Björn, I'm going to rely on you to sort of guide the conversation, at least this part of the conversation. Where were you? What catalyzed you? What was your inciting incident in reference to three act Aristotelian story structure, or Joseph Campbellian? If you were to tell me your story, what was your inciting incident that led you into developing as a character, going full circle, and then landing on, becoming the man that you are today?
I would say thank you for introducing me, Mike, and I would say you're a dear friend of mine also. And the thing is, what led me to what my belief structure is that it's gonna go way back. It's gonna be like when I used to be in Sweden. I used to be in a kind of a biker kind of MC club organization thing, and when I met my wife, she was one of those things that they call Mooney. Those are basically like they believe in Reverend Moon divine principle, and she introduced me to it, and it's based upon the Christian faith, of course. And when I met her, she introduced me to everyone, and it seems very fine because what I missed at the point of my life when I was around 29 to 30 years old, I missed of course I had my brothers in the motorcycle club, but I missed the most primordial thing you want. Like the nature thing is like you want your own children. So I met my wife through this dating app. It was not a dating app, more like a pen pal app, because I usually get pen pals before I go to a country and visit them. And then when I met my wife, I like, oh, this is a really good girl and everything like that. She says she wants a family. She wants to focus mainly on family. And I was like, oh my God, this kind of girl, I never met in Sweden. They just interested in their own careers. They're interested in their own
Modern feminism.
yeah, kind of. And when I met her, it's like something changed within me. So when I went home to Sweden, I said to her, after I met you, I felt something. Did you feel something? And then she said yes. And we started to talk, and she started to talk about her faith more, like what I said about the Moonies and stuff like that. And I met that church in it's a based upon Christianity. So when I met that church in Sweden, they were very polite. They were very like, I didn't get any kind of how to say, Jonestown vibes or something like that.
We don't like your kind around here.
Yeah, drink the Kool-Aid kind of thing. No, I was feeling like what their main focus was like basically they said like everything in society based upon family. That's where it starts. It's like the triangle, like the trinity of like the holy, like
Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
But it actually goes down into a diamond. It goes down to God and like husband, wife, and child. And I was very intrigued about that. So basically, I listened out and I took some courses, and I was like, yeah, I reconnected with my spirituality in that way. And this is a long story, sorry. So
take your time.
I was. The thing is, of course, I married this. Sorry, wait. I'm gonna turn off my phone. Where's it?
Sure. And you said they're called Moonies?
Yeah, they call them like
call
everyone call themselves Moonies. Like
this is
they don't call themselves Moonies, but like you have this like mass weddings in Korea. You probably heard about that.
Yes, I have. And this is in Japan.
They were based in Japan. They're based in Korea. They're based all around the world, basically. So, and basically, what I did was like I looked into it, and I was like, I was skeptical at first, but of course, I'm not. I have an open mind to everything, basically everything. I mean, it would be the same if like a woman said to me, "Oh, I'm from the Islam faith. I'm Jewish. I'm Indian, or like Hinduism and stuff like that." What that known to me? So, what we need to do in this time and age, I think we should have more an open mind, and that's a good thing to have. So I read more about it, and when I met my wife, I mean, she didn't seem like the typical like, like they said. I read like some lines like it was a cult, and cults usually like take one person, isolates them from the other parts of the family. They were more like, oh, you should talk to your family. And they said like, oh, you should not only read this book, what we have. You should read history, you should read philosophy, you should read everything. So that you should read everything so you can learn everything. So I was so surprised that they actually indulged themselves in intelligence and wisdom to learn about more about everything. And since I love history, so I basically just read everything about it. So I read about the guy called Reverend Moon, and how he was captured by North Korea, and he was imprisoned by North Korea. He was in jail and stuff like that. So it was an interesting time. But after I read all this, I said to my wife, like, I read everything like you wanted me to read, and I say like, I love you and I accept you for who you are. If you accept me for who I am, because she have seen all my tattoos and everything, because there's a big taboo in Japan.
Right.
She said, right. I don't care about that. She said, and I'm like, okay, so let's plan to create a family then. And she was really excited. She came home to me to Sweden to live for since January, February, March, until August. From January to August, she lived in Sweden with me, and she got to experience the Swedish lifestyle. And my parents loved her. My grandmother loved her. Everyone loved her. And I was like, since everyone gets a good vibe from her, I think, yeah, it's not just me. It's everyone else. So everyone was happy. So we had a typical kind of redneck barn wedding kind of.
Redneck barn.
So yeah. No, but I don't mind that. Like we had it in my father's barn. So like it was great. My best friend Gustav, he was so drunk. I actually had to. I had. He was feeding. He was making pizzas everywhere, and I would have to bring him in and unclothe him and put him in the shower and everything. So it was a great time. I was like, all my friends were there and everything. So it was a good time. So my wife didn't mind that at all. And then I said to my wife, I need to clear off my debt in Sweden. So it's not going to be a problem if we want to go back to Sweden and stuff like that. And she agreed to it. She moved back. She was pregnant at that time. And then I moved back, moved here. And then about, I would say, before my daughter was going to get born, Elise, that was like into my 4th year in Japan. My grandmother that I love very much. I used to spend every weekend with her, and I used to be like every weekend I spent time with her. I borrowed some movies from a friend, and I watched like Predator. I watched all these old kind of movies and stuff like that.
Right.
I had my own room and everything. It was like the best thing. And she always like checked in on me. Do you want something? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm fine. So I remember one distinct moment when she used to have this room up in the attic and the thunder came and knocked up the power. I could hear her coming up the stairs, and she came down and said, Björn, the power is out. Are you okay? And I said to her, I'm scared of the thunder. My grandmother lay down next to me, and she said to me, you shouldn't be scared of the thunder. And I said, why not? Because that's just Thor fighting giants. Who's Thor? I said. And she started to tell me all these stories.
That was the Pandora's
yes.
box.
And the funny thing is that her father and one of her oldest brother actually took refuge under a tree, and the lightning struck the tree and killed them, unfortunately. But she said it was just Thor calling them home. And from that point, I was like, oh, really? And then I heard all these stories. I heard about the Loki, Odin, and everything. She told me all these stories until I fell asleep. And I asked her more about these stories. And I was maybe 9 or 10 years old when she told me these stories. And when I was in Japan, she got diagnosed with lung cancer because she was a heavy smoker. And I remember the day at my mother called me and she said, grandmother has passed in her home in bed. So I was like kind of devastated at the point. And my wife was consolidating me. My son was running around. She was pregnant with Elise at the time, my wife. And she brought me to the bed, and I fell asleep almost immediately. And I can remember throughout the dreams that my grandma. The thing is that's the most powerful point, is that when I met my grandmother in my sleep, I could actually smell her, how she smelled. And she told me, the stories I told you are real. Remember them. And that is from that point when I woke up, I realized the heritage of like what she taught me throughout the stories of Thor, Tyr, everyone. And the funny thing is, when I woke up, I could still smell the same smell, like she was in the room. the same night she has passed. But I remember also she saying goodbye because she has to go away. And I will bet it will be probably be to Hell's High Hole because people who die not in battle, they go to Hell's High Hole. So that is my spiritual journey. And after that, I told my wife all about this. And the the best part was that she actually accepted my part, even as she has her own belief system. She believes like, oh, she said to me, you should tell the kids the same story. You should tell them about where they come from and stuff like that. Even if she has this foundation of the Christian faith, what is based upon her, she says she doesn't understand it, but she respects it.
And if I may interject something here, I actually respect the hell out of that. What your wife said about you should tell them where they come from.
Yeah.
Because with me, that's basically what a lot of my, I would say, otherwise unnecessary worldwide heritage journey has been. It's been due to what people have not been telling me.
Yeah.
And that's when. But I'll you please by all means finish. I'll.
No. I'm basically finished at this point. But
okay.
I would say like I know your background, Mike, and I know like what you've been through and what your heritage is. I would say like you should not embrace the everything. You should embrace the best parts of each thing you have.
I agree.
And that's what's gonna make you stronger. And that's what I said. Like my friend Gio, you know Gio, right?
Yes.
He said he's from Florida, right? And he has this all kind of he's Italian, he's Mexican, he's Puerto Rican, he's Cuban. He said like, "Oh, I'm all this mixed gene pool, man." And I said to him, "That's your greatest strength. Take the best thing of each one thing and put it into yourself, and just go. That will be your greatest strength. Don't use your weakness for it."
That's the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do too. That is Bruce Lee's fighting style. That the one that he invented. He learned a lot of different. In a nutshell, he learned a lot of different styles. His primary base being Yun Chun, or Wing Chun, depending on what language you're speaking.
Even ballet.
Even ballet, right? Western boxing, that sort of thing. And he said, I don't remember the exact quote from his book, Tal de Jeet Kune Do. It's he basically said, take the best of each thing, take what is useful, discard what is not, and amalgamate the rest into the highest expression of yourself. And it's not an exact quote, but that's basically it's exactly what I've been doing. When I was a teenager, I would say actually Bruce Lee's Tal de Jeet Kune Do, it influences me to this day. My whole way of thought, my whole thought process. I even made a reference to it on the Wolven Industries website pertaining to one of the news updates that our company made pertaining to Vinokan armor. But that's a different conversation. That's exactly what I do. With me, I cannot explain. Well, I can, but I cannot explain what catalyzed me going on a literal worldwide, a physical worldwide heritage journey from America to the Middle East, which that wasn't part of my worldwide heritage. That was part of the military, but just simply what catalyzed me into traveling the world in general, which then became a worldwide heritage quest without first starting off with Jim Crow, the history of Jim Crow in America.
Yes.
And it starts off with the one drop rule. And the one drop rule is if you have one perceivable drop of black in you, that's all you are, and that you must negate every other aspect of who you are and suppress the rest. And that's it. That's how you identify. You don't have legal room to do that. Now the thing is, and I'm speaking, and Bjorn, I know you already know all of this. I'm more speaking
Yeah.
so to the audience
Yeah.
who will be
Sure.
watching this. So with all that in mind, the one drop rule, thanks to Martin Luther King and all the other big major players throughout the original 1960s, 1950s, 1960s civil rights movement, not whatever the hell's going on today with the postmodernism. I mean, I could have a lot of other videos addressing that, but to keep it focused.
It's just a spiritual journeys at the moment.
They keep it focused on us and our respective journeys for this video.
Yeah.
From Jim Crow stemmed Jim Crow's one drop rule absolutely demolished. It absolutely eradicated in the vast majority of black people or black families their evolutionary psychology, their evolutionary psychological freedom to be that way, and to look at all the bigger picture of where they come from. And now if you're also a lot of my audience is or they consist of white Americans who are very sensitive about this topic, and understandably so. When I'm talking about this, don't feel like I'm one of the left wingers that are like, oh, you reparation. No. Just all I'm doing is just simply speaking the facts. So this element, this legal element, this political element, once abolished, legally freed us to do and go wherever the hell we wanted. And with our identities. The problem is, it's not as psychologically simple to just break out of several hundred years of that politically forced self-identification, and nor is it easy to break away from other black people. And this is where black people can become the antagonists, and often they are. They can be, culturally speaking, in preventing people like me from breaking away and exploring the full realm of where we actually come from. With that in mind, I went through a series of familial dysfunctional aspects of self-actualization. In other words, skipping over a lot of details, I had a lot of family dysfunction, and part of that catalyzed me into joining the military. Now, when I joined the military, part of it was a childhood dream, part of it was to escape family dysfunction. And part of that family dysfunction is actually a huge part of it pertained to the evolutionary psychology of Jim Crow, Jim Crowian evolutionary psychology. You're supposed to behave this way, but in actuality, you exist as one thing, but you're supposed to behave as one thing. And there's a lot of contradicting, a lot of psychological axioms.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, because when I'm a history buff, right? I read all kinds of histories. So what I've noticed is, like, when it comes to more kind of how to say it, like black side is like basically like they can be at the level of like explosive violence.
Yes.
And then it tones down. However, I've noticed that most of the serial killers throughout histories are actually white.
That's actually statistically incorrect. They're the most publicized.
Published, but I would say, like, I think it's more. Yeah, but I would say it's more kind of like more published, but at the same time, like, it's like that some elements of, like, especially like when it comes to the serial killer attitudes, like, you have to repress your emotion and you have to do, like, you have to have an outlet for it, while maybe black people have an outlet, like shouting at the cashier or something like that.
Right, yes.
And then they just, that's out. But the repressive side of, like, more of how to say, psychopath, sociopath, when it comes to that part, is basically that the whites are more kind of like repressing those emotions and, like, be kind of headed. Well, it's not a majority, but I think like it's just how it seems to be in society in all. I
Mm.
would say that you have to behave in a certain way for certain people, and also like we said before, like everything comes down to environment. If you raise your kids, like I mean, uh, like in mostly like in black homes, like when it comes down to a violent child, it comes from like a lack of a male influencer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The statistics on fatherless homes is ridiculous. And I came from a fatherless home, and so I can
Yeah.
speak about that for hours. But continue.
Yes. And when it comes to maybe like the other family, it maybe comes from repressive, from like especially white families, like repressive from either belief or like a kind of like more upper class, kind of like you have to behave this way, and they
Mm.
behave this way, but in their nature, they're not
Right. Yeah.
that way. They are like what's his name? Ted Bundy,
Mm.
if you know him. He came from a prominent like Christian family, like Catholic faith based family, and he was a happy childhood and everything. And still he raped all these women and
Yeah.
killed them.
Right. Well,
So
there is a part of it that is genetic. I
yes,
mean,
yeah, yeah. Most of those things are genetic, and also like some chemical imbalance in the brain, I would say.
it's usually.
However, how the expulsion of
Yes.
those kind of thinking, while maybe someone who grows up in like with no father at home, he might be acting violently directly, like without no repercussion,
Mm.
basically. Because most of the time, my wife says when the kids become unruly, she says, "Go and take care of the kids." I'm like, okay, I'll be the bad guy today
Right.
because that's the father's role, and the mother's role is to console the kids. And I don't mind that at all because that's basically the balance between us.
Mm.
If the kids feel like they have nowhere else to go, like if I berate them and then they go to their mother and cry about it, and she starts berating them, the kids will feel like, oh, I shouldn't say anything, and then they're just gonna keep their emotion
Right.
locked into
Right. Right.
themselves. So even if like I'm the bad guy, I will take that role gladly. But if they grow up to become decent human beings, because I was scared of my father sometimes
Mm.
when he got angry. But I realize now when you grow up, when you become a parent of your own, that is the balance you have to have, like between male and female. And like
Uh
you
oh.
said,
Uh
like when
oh.
you grow up,
That's
I
the
don't
balance
care
you
about
have to
that.
have. Uh oh. Continue. Continue.
No, no. The thing is, like, there is a documentary called Hjernevask. If you've seen it, it's a actually a Norwegian comedian. He sets out to investigate.
I've seen that.
Yes,
I know
yes,
exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about. I've seen that.
Hjernevask we call it, like how to say
Yeah.
brainwashing.
Yeah.
So basic based upon that, that's what I feel like most women, like more in an equal society, they will seek professions that goes towards like children, elderly, social aspects to take care of, while the man will be more on the physical part. And I know that what's his name, Jordan Peterson, have been talking about this many times also.
For the audience that are anglophonic, he said Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
Remember, he's Swedish. Jordan Peterson.
Jordan
Jordan.
Peterson.